My iPhone screen lit up in the darkness of my apartment at 2 a.m., the pale blue light stabbing into my eyes like a cut. It was a message from Sienna, my own flesh and blood sister. Don't bother showing your face at the wedding anymore. This isn't your day. Don't call back. Don't cry about it. End of story. Just one icy, clipped sentence, no explanation after months of me pouring sweat and tears into making her perfect day happen. I sat there, the cold air from the AC crawling down my back, but I didn't cry. Electricity surged through my veins, a terrifying kind of clarity. I just smiled a dry, razor-sharp smile, then quietly closed the bedroom door and locked the past behind it. Instead of screaming, I opened the Delta app and booked a first-class flight to Honolulu on the spot. A week later, while I was leisurely sipping bitter coffee in the VIP lounge at the airport, my phone started vibrating like crazy in my pocket. It wouldn't stop. 110 missed calls. Messages pouring in like a flood. Elena, what did you do? The venue shut down. You ungrateful daughter. Pick up the damn phone. I stared at the screen, my reflection staring back. Calm, cold, with not a single trace left of the weak little sister I used to be. Trust me, this was only the opening act for a far more devastating collapse. Before I get into why the Miller family's golden child wedding turned into thin air, hit that like button and tell me where you're listening to this story from. Have you ever been treated like an old, worn-out piece of furniture by your own family and then thrown away? Leave a comment. Your stories prove I'm not alone in this fight. I grew up in a suburban house in Connecticut where the lawns were trimmed to perfection down to the last millimeter, and smiles were glued on every time a neighbor passed by. The Miller family was the poster child for normalcy. Matching Christmas sweaters, flawless family photos hung perfectly along the hallway. But behind closed doors, that whole world revolved around one single son, Sienna, my older sister. Sienna was the golden child, the dazzling beauty whose laugh overpowered every conversation. And me? I was the ghost lurking in the shadows, the one cleaning up messes no one else wanted to touch. From the time we were little, our roles were cruelly assigned by Robert and Diane. Sienna got the spotlight. I got the nameless chores and silence. I still remember those high school nights when Sienna threw wild parties while Mom and Dad were away. The next morning, while she was still passed out drunk, I'd be down on my knees, scrubbing red Solo cup stains and the smell of cheap liquor out of the carpet so our parents wouldn't find out. They always dismissed the unfairness with the same cold line. That's just sister stuff. Don't blow it out of proportion. But I learned the bitter truth early. My value in this family wasn't who I was, it was how many things I could fix for them. I existed as a utility tool, a shadow that made everyone else shine. When Sienna got engaged, they automatically assumed I'd take care of everything. They never once acknowledged the successful event planning company I built, with my own pride and hard work. To them, I wasn't a CEO. I was free labor, a sacrificial pawn to make Princess Sienna look even more magnificent. I wasn't just doing small errands. I'm the founder and CEO of Collins Events, a high-end event planning company I built with blood, sweat, and iron discipline right in the middle of Manhattan. Wealthy clients happily pay tens of thousands of dollars for just 1 hour of my advice. But for Sienna, I gave away every bit of my talent, my network, everything for free. I lied to myself that it was an act of love, a desperate attempt to finally earn a permanent seat at the Miller family table, a place I never truly belonged. For 6 straight months, I lived on caffeine and Excel spreadsheets that stretched until dawn. I personally negotiated with the toughest vendors, from top floral designers to Michelin-starred caterers, just to make sure every white lily petal and every inch of table silk radiated the luxury and grandeur Sienna dreamed of. My mother, Diane, called me constantly, but never to ask if I was okay after pulling all-nighters. Instead, she poured sugar-coated poison into my ear, expert-level emotional manipulation. Elena, you're so strong and capable. Sienna is more sensitive, more fragile. She's under terrible pressure to be perfect for her in-laws. Don't be selfish and nickel and dime your sister right now. Just handle the band invoice too, okay? Pressure? Sienna spent her days lounging at luxury spas, debating between 2 shades of pink nail polish. while I was battling shipping companies at 3 a.m. Every time I tried to set a boundary, my father, Robert, would give me that icy stare that silently reminded me my sacrifice was simply the obvious duty of a good little sister. I blindly believed that if I created a masterpiece for Sienna, they would finally see my worth. I poured my entire reputation and a huge portion of Collins Events' finances into this wedding, building a dazzling crystal palace for someone who was always ready to trample me underfoot. The first crack appeared with the soft buzz of my iPhone on the marble countertop at 1 a.m. Sienna's text popped up, short and brazen, just like the way she'd treated me for years. "Hey, pay the final flower bill. Your deposit wasn't enough for the premium white orchids I just upgraded to." I stared at the screen, ice spreading through my chest. Not one thank you, not one question about how I was. Just the cruel assumption that my wallet was her endless luxury reserve. My fingers were ice cold, but firm when I typed back, "That deposit was my wedding gift. I'm not spending another dime." Sienna's reply came instantly, sharp as a knife. "Don't be so petty. It's just money. Don't ruin my big day with your cheapness." The next day, I went to my mom, Diane, hoping for one last shred of fairness. She sat there sipping her latte and sighed as if I were the criminal. "Elena, you know how sensitive Sienna is," she said in that familiar manipulative tone. "You're successful. You have your own company. Why are you being so petty with your sister at a time like this? Your selfishness is hurting the whole family." That's how they operate. Turn my reasonable resistance into an attack. Turn their exploitation into a plea for love. Diane looked at me with disappointment, like I was a stain on her perfect family portrait. If you can help, you should help. That's what family does. That moment I realized, in this house, my success was never their pride. It was just an excuse to bleed me dry to the bone. The anger inside me began to freeze, turning hard and dangerous like an ice blade, waiting for the right moment to strike. Part 5. Sentence on a touchscreen. Robert called me on Wednesday afternoon. His voice started warm, the fake warmth he uses when asking for donations. "Elena, the whole family is chipping in for Sienna's house down payment as a wedding gift. Your share is $2,000. Send it to me by Friday, okay?" I gripped the phone tighter. "Dad, Sienna kicked me out of the wedding. Why should I pay for someone who just threw me away like trash?" His tone hardened. "Don't be small-minded, Elena. This is family business, not about some stupid seating chart. Grow up." The real humiliation came that night when I saw the Instagram post. A relative shared photos from Sienna's bachelorette party at the Garden Cafe I had booked. Sienna stood in the center, radiant like a queen. The caption stabbed straight into my heart. "A-team, celebrating the most amazing bride ever. Only the truly important people are here." I wasn't in a single photo. I wasn't part of the A-team. I was the one backstage, working myself to death so they could shine. Then pushed aside the moment the show started. Pause for a second. How are you feeling about the Miller family's shamelessness right now? If you were Elena, would you just walk away quietly, or would you make a plan they'd never forget? Hit subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments before we get to the deadliest turning point of this story. The final pain finally died, replaced by something cold as chilled steel. They wanted me out of the game? Fine. I'd show them exactly what it cost to erase the one person who held the keys to their perfect little world. I sat quietly in front of my laptop, the glow of spreadsheets reflecting in my hollow eyes. A cruel smile flickered across my face. Now the real game was beginning. 10 days before the wedding, Sienna called me. No greeting, no apology, just a straight order. "The band just canceled. The singer's sick. You need to fix this right now, Elena. The wedding's in 10 days. Do something." Her voice hissed through the phone speaker, full of arrogance, as if I were still her personal slave under her command. I took a deep breath, feeling a deadly calm settle in. "I'm no longer your event planner, Sienna. Handle it yourself." I hung up. The long beep stretched out like a farewell song, ending the conversation. In the darkness, I went back through every single contract. The hotel venue, catering, flowers, table linens. All of them were signed under my legal entity, Collins Events, LLC. One crucial detail stood out. The final balance had to be paid exactly 7 days before the event. If not, the contracts would automatically become void. The next morning, I met with Victoria, my sharp Manhattan lawyer and close friend. She flipped through the stack of documents, her eyes lighting up with approval. Elena, you're a dream client. All the vendors are only accountable to you, not Sienna. If you don't pay and send the cancellation notices, this entire wedding will vanish. And most importantly, the huge deposits will be refunded straight back into your company account. I took a sip of bitter espresso, tasting cruel relief. They had looked down on my profession, treated me like free labor. Now that very tool they despised was about to pull the rug out from under their sandcastle. I wasn't just walking away. I was taking back everything that belonged to me and leaving them with nothing but the ruins of their own arrogance. They had no clue they had just signed their own wedding's death sentence. At exactly 9 a.m., 7 days before the Hamptons' wedding, I sat quietly in my apartment. Morning sunlight poured through the windows, but inside me there was only pure, crystal clear cold. On my laptop screen, 4 emails were ready to go. No anger, no tears. I moved the cursor like I was directing an army about to level a fake empire. The first email went to the venue manager, the second to the Michelin-starred caterer, the third to the floral artist, and the last to the crystal decor rental company. The message was short and to the point. As the sole owner of the contracts, Collins Events LLC hereby notifies cancellation of all services for the August 30 event. We will not be paying the final balance. Please refund the deposits to the business account on file. I hit send on each one. Click, 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 click. 4 mouse clicks that sounded like gunshots putting down a dying animal. I closed my eyes and pictured the glorious scene I had designed. $1,000 orchid arches, gold-rimmed china, sparkling chandeliers all dissolving into thin air. Diane and Robert used to say, "It's just money." So now let that simple truth pay for their ambitions. When the sent notifications appeared, I leaned back in my chair and took a slow sip of black coffee. I was no longer the little sister standing in the hallway waiting for scraps of affection. I was the one holding the wheel, and I had just steered their ship straight into an iceberg. This wedding didn't belong to Sienna. It belonged to me, and I had just decided to wipe it off the face of the earth. Every yard of silk, every bottle of wine I had painstakingly chosen, now reduced to meaningless lines of code in the vendor's systems. I stood up, packed my bags for the flight to Hawaii, and left behind a storm they could never have predicted. The storm hit right at noon, exactly when Sienna was with her A-team picking out nail polish colors on the Upper East Side. Her smile froze solid the moment Harrison, the venue manager, called. "I'm very sorry, Miss Miller, but your booking has been released per instructions from Collins Events." Next came the caterer. Then the florist. One domino after another toppled over. My phone started vibrating like crazy. I calmly switched it to speakerphone. Sienna's scream ripped through the air. "What the fuck did you do? The venue, the food, everything's gone. You pulled the plug, didn't you?" I answered with ice-cold calm. "I didn't do anything, Sienna. I just chose not to pay. You said I had no place at your wedding, so I removed myself and my entire company from the picture." Immediately, Robert's furious roar cut in. "Elena, give the money back right now. That's family money. You're humiliating all of us." Then Diane jumped in. "You're killing your sister. Just because your feelings are hurt, you're destroying the happiest day of her life? You're truly evil." I let out a dry, mocking laugh. "I'm not ruining your wedding, Sienna. I'm just stopping being the only pillar holding it up. Now let's see how long it can stand without all my hard work." Sienna broke down into sobs and curses, but my heart was frozen solid. "You'll die alone with your stupid spreadsheets. No one will ever love a monster like you," I replied softly, almost gently. "Maybe. But at least this monster doesn't have to keep scavenging for love from people who only know how to drain her dry." I pressed the end call button. A beautiful, perfect silence filled the room. For the first time in my entire life, I felt truly free, no longer a slave to their sick, twisted expectations. Sienna Miller's wedding day turned into the darkest, most absurd comedy show ever seen in the Hamptons. While I was sitting in first class, soaring across the Pacific Ocean, the updates about the disaster came flooding in through texts from relatives. There was no Crystal Palace, no glamorous live band. My family had to scramble at the last minute. and rent a dingy old community hall that reeked of mold and dampness. Lit by flickering fluorescent tubes, Sienna stood there in her designer gown worth tens of thousands of dollars, looking ridiculously out of place next to cheap plastic tablecloths straight from Walmart. The absolute highlight? The wedding reception menu had been replaced with cold, delivered pizza boxes because no professional caterer would touch a last-minute job without a contract from my company. More than half the guests walked out right after the ceremony. Meanwhile, I was strolling along Waikiki Beach at sunset. The soft, rhythmic sound of the waves crashing replaced Sienna's screams in my head. The salty sea breeze blew away the very last chains that had bound me. The massive deposits were now safely tucked back into my business account, a fair reclaiming of compensation for hundreds of hours of labor they had treated like it was worth nothing. I skimmed through an email from Diane, packed full of the usual family accusations and guilt trips. I didn't reply. I felt no guilt. I felt no regret. Robert and Diane had always drilled into me that family is everything, but they conveniently forgot that I was part of that family too. Standing under the blazing, colorful sunset, I finally understood. The sweetest revenge isn't loud or violent. It's reaching the point where you genuinely no longer give a damn about the existence of the people who once hurt you. I took a slow sip of my cocktail and smiled, welcoming the brand new chapter of my life, one written entirely for me, with no trace whatsoever of the selfish people who called themselves my family. The strangest thing about letting go of everything was the overwhelming sense of lightness that followed. I used to think I would carry guilt with me forever. But no, all I felt was boundless freedom. Diane and Robert sent me long, scathing emails accusing me of being ungrateful and disloyal to the family. I deleted them without a second thought. For the first time in my life, I had absolutely no need to explain myself or beg for recognition from people who had never truly loved me. The deposits were safely returned to Collins Events' account, where they were immediately put to work funding new projects and serving clients who genuinely value and respect my professional expertise. Standing on a Hawaiian beach at sunrise, I remembered the words my grandmother once told me. Your true value doesn't lie in what you give away to please others. It lies in what you have the courage to keep for yourself. Family can inflict the deepest wounds precisely because they know exactly where to strike hardest. But the bravest act isn't trying to repair a toxic relationship. It's having the strength to walk away from it with your head held high. I didn't destroy my sister's wedding. I simply stopped being the only pillar that was keeping it from collapsing. My worth is defined by me, not by whatever scraps they choose to throw my way. Sienna can have her pathetic pizza party. Robert can lose his precious face. And Diane can lose the daughter who was always willing to sacrifice everything, but I have reclaimed my soul. If you've ever had to stand up against the people closest to you just to protect your own dignity, please share your story in the comments below. You are not alone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the next story might be exactly the boost of strength you need. Live for yourself, because in the end, you are the only architect of your own happiness.